Alright, so for this next video, we're gonna do some practice about collisions with everything we've been learning. So I'm gonna start, well, what I want to do here in this practice is create a little bit of a level where there's multiple enemies and items that we can collect. So let's just go ahead and start with the enemy. So right now the enemy works fine, but there's only one instance of this enemy. But I think it's better if we have like a few more of them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and Control D to duplicate, and then you can move them around in a little bit of a pattern way. I'm gonna just duplicate a few times to have at least, let's say, 6 of these enemies. And then I'm going to place them uh, in a pattern here where the player can some sort of like walk around. Okay, something like this is fine. I think something like this is fine. Okay, so once you do that, just make sure that every enemy does apply damage to you. All of them should work. We're just like repeating the instance of the enemy across the level. And then when we die, as you can see, I also added like a game over message at the end. But that's what you should have. As long as you have these enemies working and taking health from your player, you're good. Okay, now let's move on to the collectible. So I wanna have like some items that when we grab them, we can actually keep track of how many items we have acquired, how many we have collected. And then we could make it in some sort of way where if we collect, let's say 10 items, 10 collectibles, then we win the game. We can keep track of them. Okay, so let's create them like this. Let's create it with like a sphere. So this one looks too much like the player character, so I'm gonna just scale it down. You can think of these ones kind of like the Pac-Man orbs. You know how in Pac-Man you need to connect all the little dots? So that's sort of the idea I have here. Like we're gonna have many of these orbs around the map, and then we can eat them up and collect them. Okay? So after we've done this, let's rename this with something that makes more sense. Let's rename this orb collectible. And then we want to make sure that for this orb collectible, we do have generate hit mechanics enable, okay? Remember, this one is needed because we are gonna do the collision check in the blueprint, and before that we do have to have this enabled. Okay, so now we're gonna create a blueprint for this. So click here, subclass or collectible blueprint is fine. And then this is the event graph for our orb. Okay, so let's go to the event graph. Now here we wanna start by adding an event hit node. Remember that is how the collision takes place. We collide with the orb and the event hit triggers. And here we want to make it so that when we hit this collectible, we will actually destroy it. Why do we want to destroy it? Because think about it. In Pac-Man, Pac-Man eats the orb, but we don't see the orb in the map after we eat it. It disappears as we collect it. So that's the same thing we want to do here. We want to destroy actor, and who is the one that's going to be destroyed is the self. We are in the orb collectible blueprint, which means the orb collectible will be the one that will be destroyed. Okay? Compile and save. Test to make sure it's working. So when you collect that orb, it should no longer be there. Okay? But that is not enough. Like, okay, we can now collect the item, but I wanna have like the counter displayed on the screen. Okay, how many have we collected? How many until we actually win? So that is going to be an implementation that's going to happen a little bit more in the player side. But before we do that, uh, actually, let's go to a setting here. One thing we do have to check, we have to change for this actor. Go to the details panel, and then all the way down, there's gonna be this advanced submenu here. So click on that one, and then there's gonna be one of the properties here that's gonna be called tags. Okay, so let's add one tag here. I'm gonna explain in a minute why we need this, but let's just add this tag and call it, let's say, orb. Okay, so I will explain in a second why we need this, but just go to advanced tags, create, and then just call it orb in lower cases. Okay, so now, as I was saying, we are gonna do the implementation for collecting the items, but that is more on the player side. So we're gonna go to my character blueprint, and then here we are gonna go. So here, as you can see, I kind of like commented the processing damage things we did, so you can also do that if you want. Now everything is gonna organize here. We're gonna move on to this area where we're gonna do the item collection implementation. So we're gonna start with the event hit node. Remember, that is what triggers the initial collision, right? But now here's the issue. Whenever this event hit node triggers, how do we know if the collision was because we collided with the collectible or if we collided with the enemy? Like both of them are triggering an event hit collision. So how can we from the character side recognize which event hit is which? That's the problem, right? So this is where the tag property that I was talking about before is gonna come into place. The tag that we did here at the end for that orb, that is basically what is tagged in Unreal Engine. It's basically an identifier for the actor. So basically, I'm identifying that actor with the orb tag. So in that way, I know that when we collide on this event hit node, I will only do so for the ones that have that tag. Okay, so then remember that in the event hit you have this other reference, which other means the other actor I'm colliding with. Because here my character is the self, the other will be the enemy or the other actor, right? So I'm gonna drag this, and then I'm gonna check for his tag by saying actor has tag. And then I'm going to call this tag how we called it actually just orb in lower cases. Then that will be the name of my tag, right? So now in this way we are recognizing the orb as we collide with it. Okay, so now we have to actually check, is this true or false? Is the actor I'm colliding with called orb or not? So we're gonna go here and check that with a branch node. So in this way, you can also connect this to here. In this way, if it is true, then we know for a fact this collision, this event hit was with the collectible, not with the enemy. Okay, so what else do we want to do? We want to we want to collect the orbs and keep track of them. So how are we going to keep track of the count of them? We're going to use a variable for that. Okay, so you're going to go here on variables. You're going to call it, let's say, counter, because this is just going to be for counting, right? And then, as you can see, I have it as an integer. That makes sense. We're just counting, so it should be an integer. Compile, and then you are going to have as the default value for this counter the value of 0, because at the beginning we have no items being collected, so it makes sense that it's just 0 to start. Okay, but then here, when we have this true condition, when the actor has the orb tag, I want to increment my count of orbs. So I'm going to look for a node called increment int. which basically increments the current value of an integer that you provide. And let's provide that by dragging and dropping and doing get counter. In this way, we are incrementing the current value of counter every single time. Okay, so until this point, we are able to increment the count successfully in the blueprint. Now we want to show that count to the screen as we also collect. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag and drop this into, well, actually, before we do that, let's just right click here and add an append node, but the string one. And then I'm gonna connect this to the B pin. So this one, Unreal Engine will do a transformation by default there. So the B will display the count, but then let's do a message to go along with that. Let's say something like orbs collected equal to, then the value shows right next to it. In this way, it's a little bit more like in a message style rather than just showing the value. Okay, then when this is done, we are going to print that full string into the screen, connect these two as well. And I think that it's gonna successfully display all the orbs that we keep collecting. But now we wanna make it also so that when we collect 10 orbs, we win. Okay, so we are going to do one more check here. I'm gonna drag and drop same way from here where I get the current value of the counter. And I'm going to look for a node called greater equal, which is gonna check if this pin A, which is the current value of counter, is greater or equal to 10, then when that is true, I'm going to also print a string to the screen, but it will say something like 10 orbs sorry, 10 orbs collected, you win. Okay, and then you can actually connect these two as well here. So when we collect 10 orbs, we get this win message. And I think that's about everything you need to have. So you can also even comment all this out to make it look better. And then I'm gonna just call this, sorry, I'm just gonna call this item collection. Okay. All right. So hopefully all of this made sense. Compile and save for all your blueprints. And now here, when we are back in the level, we're almost done, but we want to make sure that we have more items to collect. So same thing as we did before, we're going to duplicate until we have about at least 10 of these orbs. And right now, because we're just practicing, I'm just going to have them like placed in a straight line for simplicity. So I'm not going to like make it too fancy or anything. But in the lab assignment that you're gonna do later, you will have more freedom of creativity to do this however you like. Okay, so something like this. I'm just gonna have them there like in a straight line, but do make sure you have 10 of them because that's when the message triggers. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So now we have the 10 orbs, right? Now I'm going to just test this out. So I'm going to run the game. Okay, my collision is taking place. The health works. Now here for the orbs, I'm going to go one by one. So orbs collected 1, it disappeared. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see, they all disappear as we kept going. And then when I do the last one, 10. And you win message also displayed. Okay? So that's what I want you to do for this practice. Make sure that the enemies are set up correctly and the orbs collectible are set up correctly, okay? So that's what we need to do for the practice, have it same as me in this way. Then for the lab, you do have a little bit more freedom to do to do it however you want. And also, I think most of the requirements are pretty clear, but just a couple ones I wanted to talk about. Uh, Distribute the enemy and collectible actors across the map in a unique way. So you should do this in the previous lab assignment submission. So you should already have like the house, some platforms. There should already be some sort of map. Okay, so use that map to your advantage to have the enemy and collectibles are distributed there. And also apply materials. Okay, right now I didn't apply materials for simplicity, but you go ahead and apply materials in the lab assignment and not make it confusing. So if you're gonna have 10 enemies, those 10 enemies should look the same to the player. Same with the orbs. If you have 20 orbs, then the 20 orbs should look the same so that the player understands that they are the same instance of the character of the actor in hand. Okay? So go ahead and follow all these requirements and submit when you're done. Submit both the lab assignment and practice. Okay, for the practice, just have it same as me. And then for the lab assignment, you do it your own way.